Thank you everyone at WorldRight for organising this. Okay, freedom of useless knowledge. In Plato's Republic, Socrates and a farmer are having a chat. The farmer praises the study of astronomy because, he says, knowing the movement of the heavenly bodies could really improve my farming. It could make me more efficient. Socrates pauses and replies to his interlocutor, I am amused at your fear of the world, which makes you guard against the appearance of insisting upon useless studies. In every man there is an eye of the soul, which when by other pursuits is lost and dimmed, is by these purified and re-illumined. In other words, Plato is saying that useless knowledge refreshes the parts other knowledge can't reach, the eye of the soul. Of course, we know that for Plato, episteme was king and doxa very much the servant. His was a less than egalitarian cosmology for sure. But this doesn't diminish the power of his insight, which is in serious danger of dying a slow death today. No knowledge is useless. It is, in fact, an oxymoron to say that it is or could be. Why? Because we are humans, and one thing that is unique to us is that we think, we reflect, and we attribute meaning to both the world as it exists and our experience of it. Knowledge in both forms, episteme and doxa, is the product of our efforts, our drive to know, whether out of ambition, fear, wonder, idle curiosity, or the urgent need to solve an important problem. How could such knowledge ever be useless? Knowledge could only ever be judged as useless if we accept the belief that the external purposes are logically prior to the knowledge itself. And this confuses making knowledge and being knowledgeable and using knowledge with applying it. Now, applying knowledge is often perfectly legitimate, as in the search for a vaccine for COVID, exploring Mars, building better houses, or creating that perfect dress that really does smooth all unwanted bumps and lumps. But ultimately, we have knowledge because we are human. That is to say, knowing beings, whether we know it or not. Knowledge itself exists prior to our uses of it, and as an intellectual object, or an object that is produced by our thoughts, our beliefs, our intuitions, our memory, and yes, even feelings, it is precious. And I think it's time to recognize that while the boundary between expert episteme and common sense doxa needs to be maintained and respected when we're working in disciplinary knowledge, both are absolutely necessary and valuable in the pursuit of truth, especially when we move out of trying to affect things in the esoteric sphere of academia and into the carnivalesque world of social life with all its multiple voices, interests, and experiences. Some politicians think society only really needs those subjects that they think can help the economy. Some academics have lost their own belief in knowledge and argue that the primary task of knowledge is to produce citizens who think like them and share their particular set and interpretation of liberal values. And I think both groups reveal themselves to be fearful of the world and fearful of its multitude of people. And such fear puts them on a path that usually ends up with philistinism and authoritarianism. They fear the consequences if people think too freely, if people's thoughts take them into all manner of knowledge that to the instrumental eye looks utterly useless. For technocrats and determinists of all stripes, knowledge must always have an extrinsic purpose and be shaped into measurable nuggets of information that populate any number of league tables. Of course, knowledge can be applied in all kinds of ways that have concrete effects, good, bad, and boring. And each knowledge area has its legitimate standards and procedures. But we need to remember that fundamentally, thought and knowledge are radically free. We need to uphold this more than ever today. And more than ever, we need to argue against those who fear the freedom of and the freedom engendered by useless knowledge, because they are arguing against the fuller expression of our common humanity.